Hi, my name is Julie Hasselberger and welcome to my channel. The purpose of this video is to basically answer some questions that a lot of viewers might have, give you a resource to go and get some answers. I'm going to talk about basically Daniel's diagnosis. A lot of times people will say, what is wrong with Daniel? Or what does he have? Or what's his diagnosis? I get that a lot. So Daniel has a condition called polymicrogyria. Basically, it's a rare brain deformity. The reason this happened to Daniel is kind of where it gets complicated. When I was pregnant with him, I acquired a virus, which at the time I didn't know. I had no idea I was sick. A virus that is very common with little kids. It's called cytomegalovirus, CMV. CMV, if you acquire it while you're pregnant, in the early stages of the pregnancy, is very, very dangerous for the baby. It's very dangerous for the baby at any point in the pregnancy, but especially during the formation of the brain, which is about 11 to 13 weeks into the pregnancy, so really early on. The virus attacks the neurons in the brain as they're forming. What happens is the brain doesn't form correctly, or it doesn't develop correctly. So when Daniel was born, he was full term, he was healthy, everything looked fine. We had no idea throughout the pregnancy. Now, back then, we just had no idea. Everything appeared to be perfect. Didn't have any issues until probably about, I guess, when babies start to develop more advanced motor skills, 5 months old, 4 months old. He wasn't holding things. He was very fisted. He was a happy baby. He was nursing. All of his normal infant motor skills were there. So we really didn't know. He was different than Sarah was, but he was a different baby. So, babies are different. But we did start to notice somewhere around 5 months, 4 months. He had a very, very bad case of a respiratory illness as an 8-week-old. We thought that might be delaying him, so we were kind of like, well, maybe because he was so sick with this respiratory illness, he was delayed and he'll be okay, he'll catch up. But when we started to see specialists, they really noticed that there was something delayed. He didn't sit up. His motor skills were very poor. He couldn't feed himself anything. We knew something was going on. We started therapy early. Basically, Daniel has been like this, since he was born. We didn't know his brain was deformed. We knew his head was a little bit small when he was an infant, but that can happen too. When he was just about a year old, I think about 11 months old, after, he had this respiratory illness, so we were waiting for him to catch up and seeing doctors and going through all kinds of tests and things to see what was wrong with him. He actually had his first set of MRIs because they wanted to look and see if there was indeed damage from any respiratory issues. And what came back from that was probably a pretty incredible result of films that showed his brain was deformed. Not only was it deformed, it was too small. There's a term called microcephaly. He has microcephaly. His brain was very small, and there were pieces of it that had what they call hydrocephalus, which is extra fluid in there. It didn't look right on the scans. Prompted us to do more tests and to see more specialists, and essentially, long story short of it, his brain was diagnosed with polymicrogyria because if you ever look at a normal brain, you'll see like convolutions that, little curvy brain, you know what a brain looks like. Everyone knows what a brain looks like. Daniel's are in sections, about 80% shrunken and weird looking. And some of them are smooth, but most of them are too small. His brain is significantly deformed, about 80% of it. And I had taken him out to a specialist in Chicago to confirm all of this because it's very rare the degree of which his disability manifested itself in his brain. We got a lot of answers from that clinic. That's what Daniel has. It's called polymicrogyria. What does that mean for him? It means a lot of things. If your brain is deformed the way that his is, this type of deformity results in the following things. It doesn't always result in the following things in all people. And the thing about this condition that he has is it's very different for each individual child that has it. And a lot of things depend on developmental issues and health and environment and those kinds of things too. Polymicrogyria can result in seizures, feeding difficulties, respiratory issues, immune system weakness, overall orthopedic problems, significant global motor skill delay, cognitive delays. For Daniel, he started having seizures when he was just about 3 years old. Then he started to develop a lot of respiratory issues. A lot of that was kind of secondary to the respiratory illness he had as an infant. He has asthma. He doesn't swallow very well, so he started to develop what they call failure to thrive. When he was 2 years old, He needed to have a feeding tube placed because he went from being a chubby baby to being a skinny 2-year-old. We were not able to feed him enough food for him to grow sufficiently. He started being tube fed when he was very small, and he is still tube fed to this day. He started to have just a lot of, a combination of seizures and spasticity issues and illnesses that were immune system related, but most of it was just illnesses that were complicated due to his condition. When Daniel started going through puberty, we noticed that he was developing a significant spinal curve, and I guess that's pretty common for people who are wheelchair bound. Daniel's was progressive. I mean, he went from having a straight spine to having a 30-degree spine to, by the time he was 14, he was about 80. When he turned 15, he was at 90, and he was having significant pneumonia, all kinds of problems. We had his spinal fusion done when he was 15 years old. We'll talk about that in another video, but all of these things are a part of the condition. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. We upload daily vlogs every day. All about Daniel.